Part 24. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 231. Accompanied by the first ray of sunlight in the morning, the eternal forest was sprinkled. The elf prelude sounded in the forest. The female elves' voices were ethereal and pleasant, lingering in the forest, and the coronation ceremony of the elf queen was about to begin. The cute elves walked at the front of the coronation team, carrying flower baskets, scattering petals all over the sky, and paving a perfect flower path. The spiritual plants and flowers were also swaying in the wind, dancing happily. Behind the elves was the powerful elf knights, whose mission was to protect the queen, and from now on they would be the queen's most loyal guards. In the center, surrounded by the knights, the new elf queen Atna took office in full dress. She wore a long white dress embellished with crystals, which symbolized the eternal purity and flawlessness of the elves. The wreath on her head was the crown symbolizing the power of the elves, woven from the branches at the top of the eternal tree. Wearing it represented the recognition of the elves' sacred object, the eternal ancient tree. With a smile on her face, Atna stepped barefoot on the road paved with flower petals. Behind her, the elders of the elves bowed their heads and followed. Queen! Queen! As they walked along, the elves shouted enthusiastically and bowed their heads. Everything seemed very peaceful. But everyone knew that this was just the calm before the storm, and the major factions within the elves would not watch Atna ascend the throne. Even if they could not stop her, they had to make her bleed. Bleeding on the day of coronation was an ominous sign for the elves. Atna's heart was pounding. She also knew that today the major factions would not let her, a young queen, easily enter the elf temple. Su Xian mixed in the crowd, and he also saw that the garrison troops of the 10,000 Races Council had disappeared, and it was clear that they wanted to sit on the mountain and watch a civil war among the elves. The distance from the elves' ancestral land to the elf temple was neither far nor close. When the coronation team was halfway there, undercurrents were surging. The lurkers from various factions seemed to be unable to hold back. Kill! A shout suddenly broke out from the crowd. When the voice sounded, a long arrow had already shot in front of Atna. Bang! When it flew 3 feet away from Atna, the long arrow shattered. The elves naturally had strong men to protect Atna. One arrow shattered. The situation instantly became a mess. Atna looked at all this, with a touch of sadness in her eyes. All this should not have happened. Because of her carelessness, countless people in the tribe lost their lives. She was a sinner of the elves, and she was not worthy of being the queen. But she had to sit on the position of queen. Contradictory psychology stirred in Atna's heart. The civil strife of the elves reached its peak at this moment. Countless strong men fought fiercely. They were all former comrades in arms and confidants. But at this moment, they stood on different positions and fought for their respective beliefs. The world around Atna turned into a bloody one, but she still sat in the pure white car, pretending to be calm and indifferent to everything. At this moment, a dark blade passed through the sky and broke the silence. The black flash reached Atna in the blink of an eye. Boom! The long silent kings finally took action. The leader of the Queen's Guard Knights looked at Atna. Queen, keep going, we will protect you. Atna nodded and walked forward step by step in the chaotic battle. The world seemed to be divided into 2 completely different paintings. Atna walked on a quiet forest path. And there were mountains of corpses and blood around her. Atna, you are not worthy of being the queen of the elf, you are the sinner of my race. In front, an old elf suddenly rushed out. He did not kill Atna, but cut his own throat with a knife, staining the road ahead red with blood. After the old man, more and more elves rushed out. They were all ordinary elves, but they died to show their determination and fell in front of Atna. The elves died one after another, and the bodies piled up into a small hill. Atna trembled all over, her eyes wide open, and she tried to suppress the great discomfort in her heart. Atna. Why? Another elf girl rushed out. When Atna saw this girl, she couldn't stop the tears in her eyes anymore, and the big tears rolled down her cheeks. No. Atna stretched out her hand. Please, don't make these meaningless sacrifices. The girl in front of her was her former friend. The girl looked at her, and she couldn't stop the hot tears either. She was resentful and puzzled, and questioned Atna loudly. Why? Why did you betray Moira? Tell me, are you really afraid of death? It's just death, what's there to be afraid of? Should my elves submit to those evil forces? Atna didn't answer her, and shook her head gently. The girl smiled miserably, as if she had gotten the answer. Puff. Without hesitation, she stabbed the dagger into her heart, becoming another corpse on the road to becoming an emperor. Atna covered her head, almost insane. There was also a voice in her mind, asking, is it worth it? Is it worth sacrificing the lives of countless innocent elves for a mission? In the distance, Su Xian witnessed everything. The situation was so chaotic that Su Xian could not see clearly. At a glance, there were at least 5 factions fighting. The first was the Queen's Guard led by Atna, and the second was the group of staunch peace advocates who followed Moira's instructions. The third group simply did not want Atna to become a troublemaker for the Elf Queen. The fourth was the Foreign Alliance, mainly the Dark Elves, who took the opportunity to retaliate against the Elves. The fifth was the still lurking 10,000 Races Council team, and it was not known which side they were leaning towards. The struggle between the 5 factions made the situation on the field a mess. At this moment, several more lights and shadows rushed towards Atna, and when they fell in front of Atna, several elderly elves suddenly appeared. They were all the ancestors of the Elf King. Queen, you have to be careful. The faces of the ancestors were solemn. They had never thought that there were so many kings hidden in the dark. It seemed that the Dark Elves had ill intentions and were going to attack their new queen. They knew that with the 10,000 Races Council, the Dark Elves would not kill Atna. But with the hatred of the Dark Elves for the Elves, they would definitely do something dirty to shame the entire elf race and become a joke in the history of the 10,000 races. The battle between the powerful kings destroyed a large area of plants, and the eternal forest was in ruins. Atna's pace was getting faster and faster. As long as she reached the elf temple, it would all be over. She didn't want to see more people die because of her. But not long after she walked, Atna felt the crisis coming again. A dark elf with silver hair and black skin blocked her way. There is still a king. Atna's pupils shrank. The eternal crown on her head shone. With the blessing of the eternal crown, Atna's realm rose. The dark elf king smiled disdainfully and turned into a black shadow to rush towards Atna. Bang! The shield formed by the eternal crown was instantly broken, and Atna flew out with it. At this time, Atna could not care about anything else and could only run to the side. They thought that the support of several ancestors was enough for her to safely ascend to the throne of the queen, but they did not expect that the Dark Elves would dispatch so many kings for revenge. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 232. Without protection, Atna kept running. The aura of the enemies around her was increasing. The Dark Elves' pursuit became unscrupulous. They no longer concealed their aura and approached Atna from all directions. Atna knew she could not escape. A glimmer of determination flashed across her eyes, and the eternal crown on her head burst into light again. The trees in the eternal forest were illuminated by the light, as if they had spirituality, and rushed towards the Dark Elves around them. The flowers and leaves formed a barrier to protect Atna. Atna knew that this riot would not last long. All she had to do was to use the geographical advantages of the eternal forest to block these enemies for a while. But she still underestimated the strength of the king. Although that dark elf was only a king at the boundary fruit stage, he was not something that some spiritualized trees could stop. Saint Atna, long time no see. The arrogant laughter filled Atna with coldness. You can't stop us. The Dark Elf King sneered, you are not the real Elf Queen after all. Submit to us and we will help you ascend the throne, but we need you, the Queen, to leave some blood for us. To show the friendship between our two tribes. The laughter around was getting more and more outrageous. Atna did not answer, but just gritted her teeth and supported herself. Unfortunately, she has not yet been crowned by the Elf Temple. Only when the ancestors jointly opened the Queen's coronation ceremony for her and obtained the recognition of the Eternal Scepter, she could become a real queen and use the entire Eternal Forest to defend against the enemy. If the Eternal Scepter was in hand, what would the king fear? Unfortunately, there is no if. Just as she was ready to give everything and fight to the death, another breath suddenly descended on the battlefield. Through the barrier woven by branches, Atna saw a figure holding a knife. The face could not be seen clearly. The orange-yellow long sword, which was more than 2 meters long, exuded a strong breath. Swish. Big sword slash. The blade flashed across the sky. Just one blade. Except for the Dark Elf King, all the other Dark Elves were beheaded. Who are you? The Dark Elf King looked at the strange figure in front of him with a solemn expression, and the orange-yellow longsword in the other's hand made him extremely afraid. It was a weapon of mythical quality. Just feeling the breath of the sword, the pressure came to his face. It was as if something above the 9 heavens was locking him and wanted to press down heavily. Seeing that the other party did not speak, the Dark Elf King clasped his fists and said, "My friend, this is a racial grudge between the Dark Elf and the Elf. Please give the Dark Elf some face. I will reward you handsomely later." Swish. The only response to him was a flash of blade light. The Dark Elf King's face changed, and the bone blade in his hand killed the mysterious visitor. He could feel that the other party's strength was not too strong, but the mysterious aura and the equipment and weapons on his body made him afraid. Boom. The bone blade accurately blocked the flash of the knife. The Dark Elf King snorted coldly and wanted to fight back, but he felt something falling from the sky. He felt a heavy pressure all over his body and looked up. A meteorite carrying the breath of the chaotic universe was falling towards him at a high speed. Meteorite. He was stunned. Is this the characteristic of a mythical weapon? He felt a strong jealousy in his heart, followed by endless frustration. The opponent's strength was obviously not strong, but he relied on weapons and equipment to suppress him. Su Xian took the knife again. He did not dodge or evade, fighting for his life. The knife in his right hand, and an invisible soul blade condensed on his left hand. The Dark Elf King subconsciously blocked the flowing star meteor knife, but he didn't expect the soul blade in Su Xian's hand to break free and rush straight to his face. Swish. The Dark Elf reacted quickly, but was still hit. His mind suddenly became confused. After a moment of trance, Su Xian was already approaching him, and the soul blade slashed down again. What? The Dark Elf King was completely dumbfounded. Such a forbidden technique could actually be used continuously? Where did the enemy in front of him come from? The second soul blade pierced into the Dark Elf King's head, and he let out a painful wail. His head was splitting, his eyes were bloodshot, and his aura became violent. I want you to die. He gave up defense, and countless bone blades appeared between heaven and earth, slashing towards Su Xian. Puff. The orange-yellow knife light flashed again. The sky and the earth were torn open, and the body of the Dark Elf King was cut in half, and the strong knife intent devoured his vitality. At the moment of death, he saw thousands of bone blades piercing the mysterious visitor at the same time. However, his desperate attack was completely blocked by a golden light that burst out from the opponent's body. Puff. His upper body fell on the cold soil, and his consciousness completely dissipated. Die with eyes wide open. Su Xian turned his head and looked at Atna, who was hiding in the leaf barrier with cold eyes. The latter walked out of the barrier with gritted teeth and bowed to thank Atna, the saint of the elves. Thank you for saving me. For some reason, looking at the mysterious visitor in front of her, the figure of that person appeared in her eyes again. The person who made her fall in love at first sight and haunted her. However, even if Su Xian had a good talent, it would be difficult for him to reach the level of the senior in just over a year. She thought too much. Whoosh! Su Xian flashed and came to Atna, saying coldly, I want to erase your memory. Atna's face changed slightly. Please forgive me, I can't let you check my memory. If you don't trust me, I can set up a word spirit ban and never reveal what happened here. Okay. Su Xian nodded. Atna immediately set up a word spirit ban, looked at him again, and asked, Senior, are you sent by Her Majesty Moira? Su Xian shook his head. Silver light flashed, and the figure disappeared between heaven and earth. Atna stood there for a while. Who is the senior? Why does he want to help me? Looking at the other party's methods, it is obvious that he is not from the elves. Could it be other seniors of the peace faction? Atna couldn't figure it out, so she could only put the matter aside for the time being, looking into the distance, and then walk towards the elf temple. This time, there was no obstacle. Walking through the road paved with blood, she came to the elf temple. When she stood on the 9th step, the fight behind her seemed to stop. The power of the elf temple washed over Atna's body. She walked up step by step. Behind her, the blood-soaked Queen's Guard knight stood under the steps with solemn eyes. Several ancestors also got rid of the enemy. Only a few secretly peeping figures sighed. Unexpectedly, the Dark Elves spent such a huge price but still failed to catch this young and immature queen. So be it. Although the Dark Elves failed and missed the opportunity to humiliate the elves, Atna's ascension to the throne also meant that she had completely become a puppet of the 10,000 Races Council. So far, the elves have been completely divided. Regardless of whether Atna is loyal to the 10,000 Races Council, the elves who support her ascension to the throne will definitely tend to the 10,000 Races Council, and those who do not support her will be completely liquidated in the next period of time. Atna sat in this position, destined to be a lonely queen. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 233. Atna stepped over the 9 steps. The elves pushed open the door to the elf temple for her. Several elf ancestors stood on each side. Under the gaze of countless people, Atna walked to the throne. The throne made of dazzling crystal was unveiled. Atna slightly lifted her skirt and turned to sit down. She raised her eyebrows and looked down. From inside the temple to outside the temple, and then spread to the entire eternal forest. With the pillar of light rising from the elf temple, all the elves knelt. The eternal scepter slowly fell from the space above the temple. Atna reached out and held it. The eternal scepter exuded a soft breath and easily accepted the new queen. The moment she held the eternal scepter, Atna also held the symbol of power of the entire elf tribe. The young and tender girl turned into the queen of the world at this moment. Under the throne, the elves congratulated in unison. We are here to see Her Majesty the Queen. May the elves live forever. Athena placed her scepter on the ground and said calmly, Stand up. Thank you, Her Majesty. The elves stood up. At this time, several figures came from outside. The visitors with silver hair and purple-black skin were the Dark Elves. Athena looked at the Dark Elves with a sharp gaze. It was these Dark Elves who had just caused a bloody storm for the entire elves, but now they came to congratulate with smiles. What a irony! Meet the Queen of the Elf. The dark elves had a playful smile on their faces. They seemed polite, but their eyes were full of sarcasm. The elves have returned to the Council of all races, and the grievances between our two races will naturally be resolved in the future. This time, the Queen ascended the throne, and we specially presented gifts. The leading dark elf waved his hand and raised hundreds of square boxes. Queen, I have heard about the internal rebellion of the elves for a long time. The rebels have caused you a lot of trouble. For the peace between the two tribes, we helped the Queen to clean up these internal traitors. He waved his hand. The lid of the box was opened. Hundreds of heads rolled out of it, all of them were elves who escaped from the eternal forest. Queen, the traitors have been killed. Does it make you feel better? The dark elves provoked recklessly. The elves in the temple clenched their fists. For countless years, the elves have always suppressed the dark elves. How could they have suffered such grievances? Athena's eyes were cold and she nodded. The people of the dark elves are thoughtful. She said lightly, if the two tribes can be unified again in the future, you are all meritorious, and this emperor will remember your contributions. Athena's tone made several dark elves grit their teeth. Do you really think of yourself as the queen? Even if they are unified again, the position of the elf king should be occupied by the dark elves? Several dark elves wanted to say something, but Athena waved her hand. Please take a rest aside for now. After the other congratulatory teams of the 10,000 races have finished their ceremony, there is no rush to discuss the affairs of the two races. They could only withdraw. Then representatives of the 10,000 races, each with their own ulterior motives, presented their gifts. The coronation ceremony lasted until the evening. At the same time, the Elf Academy. Su Xian, who had killed a group of dark elves, changed his identity and returned to the Elf Academy. As for the identity of Murphy, he had been chopped into meat sauce in the riot. A riot left the Eternal Forest devastated. Not only the various forces involved in the struggle suffered, but also many ordinary elves suffered heavy casualties in the aftermath of the battle. Su Xian changed his identity to an elf teacher who died in the riot. He did not go to the temple to pay homage to the Queen of Bidanki, but walked to a secluded village. The riot affected the entire Eternal Forest. The small village was not spared. The shrill cries echoed in every corner of the village. Su Xian ran straight to the small wooden house in the corner of the village. After feeling the situation inside the house, his face changed. He quickened his pace and walked quickly into the house. In front of the door, there were two corpses of dark elves. In the living room inside the door, Nicolin was leaning against the wall with blood flowing from all 7 orifices. In the room further inside, Lin's grandmother had already lost her breath. Su Xian squatted down and investigated the cause of death of the 2 dark elves. There was no external injury, and they all died of mental collapse. Looking at Lin's injuries again, Su Xian already understood. It is likely that Lin was stimulated by a huge stimulus and stimulated the diseased prophecy eye, killing the 2 dark elves. The situation is not good. He hurried to Lin's side and picked up Lin, who was weak and in a coma. The gentle life energy was injected into her body. But Lin's main injury still came from the pair of diseased prophecy eyes. It connected Lin's lifeline and could not be cured by external force, but could only be nurtured in a special way. After a long time, Lin woke up. She opened her eyes dazedly and saw a strange face. Where am I? Uncle, did you save me? Where is Grandma? Is Grandma okay? This is the Elf Academy, Su Xian said. The riot is over, you should take good care of your injuries. Lin was worried about her grandma's safety, so she asked again, Uncle, how is my grandma? Sorry, Su Xian whispered, when I rushed to rescue her, your grandma had already been killed by the dark elves, and I couldn't do anything. No. No. Nicoline's grey pupils suddenly shrank. Grandma won't die, you must be lying to me, right? I want to go back to see Grandma. She cried loudly. Still crying without tears. Lin got up from the bed and stumbled all the way to the outside. Su Xian did not stop her, but just followed her silently. She had to face this matter after all. The situation was chaotic at that time. In order to ensure that Atna was safe and get what Su Ying wanted smoothly, Su Xian had no time to take care of Lin. I don't know how many times she fell on the road, and Lin, with a pale face, rushed back to the hut. The grandma on the bed had already lost her breath. The green leaves covered her body. A few flowers embellished it. The funeral of the elves is only to return to the embrace of nature. Grandma! Grandma! Nicolene lay in front of the bed and cried loudly. The grandma who depended on each other left her. She no longer had relatives in this world. The whole world seemed to become gloomy at this moment. The extreme sadness stained the grey pupils with a layer of thorns. The violent mental fluctuations spread. Su Xian stood in place, his robes fluttering. He waved his hand and blocked all the mental fluctuations. Standing in the fluctuations, he seemed to be able to empathize with Lin and feel the pain of losing a loved one. And the resentment towards this grey world. 2 drops of blood and tears flowed from the corners of Lin's eyes. She lost consciousness again, fell down, and fell into Su Xian's arms. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 234. Elf Temple. The Queen's coronation ceremony finally came to an end. Representatives of all races retreated. Several ancestors of the elves also returned to their ancestral land, and the guard knights stayed at the outside of the temple. On the throne, Atna waved her hand to activate the temple restrictions. Her tense nerves finally relaxed at this moment, and there was a trace of fatigue on her still youthful face. To her, the identity of the queen was more like a shackle. She prefers her free self. Pity. There is no going back. Atna. At this moment, a voice sounded in Atna's mind. Who? Atna was suddenly startled. She looked at the eternal scepter in her hand, and a familiar aura emerged. You, are you Her Majesty Moira? It's me. Moira's voice went straight to Atna's mind. Now that you have been recognized by the eternal scepter, I guess you have already taken the position of the Elf Queen. Then the persecution from the 10,000 Races Council should have reached a very serious level. Atna was shocked. Your Majesty, is all this part of your plan? Moira sighed. It's just a matter of making more preparations. The civil strife in the elves is very serious now. You sit in this position and are reviled and misunderstood by countless people. You must be in pain, right? The pain in her heart was stabbed, and Atna burst into tears. The tribesmen all thought that she compromised with the council of all races and took the position of Queen of the Elves for the sake of supreme power, but who knew that everything she did was just an expedient to cover up the truth. She had to compromise with the Council of Nations. Seeing her clan members die in front of her eyes one by one, she felt more painful than anyone else. Atna, thank you for your hard work. Moira comforted her softly. As long as we bring back the trunk of the eternal tree that condenses the life energy of the moon well, the end of the war will not be far away. Intruders will eventually pay the price. Atna nodded heavily. Your Majesty, in half a year at most, or even less, I will be able to take down the trunk of the eternal tree, but how should I bring it to you? Moira paused and said, someone should come to pick you up. You still know this person? Do I know him? Atna was quite confused. Her social circle in the human race was not as wide as Moira's, and she knew only a handful of powerful kings. She remembered something and asked quickly, Your Majesty, during today's enthronement ceremony, I was chased by the Dark Elf King and almost used my last resort. At the critical moment, a mysterious strong man killed many Dark Elves and saved me. Was it your arrangement? Mysterious strong man. Moira also didn't understand that the few ancestors she had left behind in the elf clan were the last remaining fighting force to protect Atna, and no mysterious strong men were arranged to protect her. Atna said, "He shouldn't be from the elves, maybe he is the king you sent to take over the task." The responder is not the king. Moira shook her head, "The person who came to pick you up is Sushian from the human race. He should have just stepped into the realm of feudal lord." May. Mysterious. The two words exploded in Atna's mind like a bolt from the blue. Sushian actually came to Lulan Star? Could it be that the mysterious strong man who saved him was Sushian? How could it be? In just over a year, has Sushian become that powerful? But Moira said that Sushian could only reach the level of a feudal lord. What was going on? Moira also realized that something was a little strange, and repeatedly warned, "Atna, you must remember not to tell anyone about the core mission before meeting Sushian with your own eyes. No matter how many clan members die, you must strengthen your heart." Atna nodded carefully, "Your Majesty, I understand. I will definitely complete your instructions and never disgrace your orders." "Okay, I've said everything I need to say." Moira's voice in my mind became smaller and smaller, "This is the last way I can communicate with you across the air. After the force mark I left in the Eternal Scepter dissipates, we will no longer be able to communicate. Remember, remember. Everything is about mission, goodbye." The sound disappears. Atna sat on the throne, her mind filled with Sushian's figure. She thought she would never see Sushian again in her life, but she didn't expect that Sushian had already arrived. That mysterious strong man must be Sushian. Atna thought of that day. She regretted why she didn't be brave and ask more questions, otherwise she would really see him. Where should I go to find him now? The queen's sorrow was replaced by the girl's yearning at this moment. Atna looked at the starry sky above the temple. In her eyes, it seemed that every star was the incarnation of Sushian. After a long time, time has not been able to dilute my longing. Nor can it be forgotten. After knowing the news, all kinds of emotions in my heart surged like a tide and were difficult to calm down. Time flies. 7 days later. Nicoleline woke up from a coma due to serious injuries. Her eyes were a little dull, and she no longer called her grandma like crazy. She seemed to have accepted the fact. She just stared at the ceiling and said nothing. Sushian was sitting beside him. "Uncle." After a long time, Nicoleline finally spoke, "Thank you for saving me." "Fine. Uncle, I want revenge." The word revenge was spoken calmly from the mouth of a 6 or 7-year-old child, which made people's hair stand on end. "How do you take revenge?" Sushian asked. "I." Nicoleline was stunned for a moment. She seemed to know nothing, even her favorite divination prophecy was poorly learned, but her desire for revenge was so urgent. Sushian stretched out his hand a little. On the ceiling, a star map slowly unfolded. The moment she saw the star map, Nicoleline reacted suddenly and looked at Sushian in shock. You are the envoy of God. Do you want to learn the art of divination and deduction from me?" Sushian asked. "Think." Nicoleline sat up from the hospital bed, "But I have nothing to give you, are you really willing to teach me?" She spoke very fast, for fear that Sushian would not agree, and then said, "If you are willing to teach me, when I grow up and take revenge, I will give you all the energy stones I earn, and I will be your servant. Laundry, cooking, whatever." Sushian shook his head, "I don't want these." He said, "If you really want to, then worship me as your teacher." Nicoleline quickly got up from the bed, knelt on the ground, and kowtowed to Sushian 3 times, as if she was afraid that she was not sincere enough, and even her forehead was bleeding and swollen. "Disciple Nicoleline, meet the teacher." "Get up," Sushian raised his hand, "from now on, you must temporarily forget your hatred and learn how to deduce." The extreme heart will affect your judgment. Revenge, when the time comes, I will avenge you. What you have to do now is to take good care of your body, especially your eyes, and never use its power indiscriminately. Disciple understands. Nicoleline stood up straight with her thin body respectfully. She saw it. The hope that shines above the stars. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 235. Looking at the thin and sick Nicoleline. In any case, the seventh disciple was finally admitted into his sect. The seventh disciple, Lin, is also the most pitiful among the disciples. Although Zhongmu was an orphan, he at least lived with his parents for a while. Xiao Li's life experience is mysterious, but at least she feels Su Ying's maternal love and has taken good care of her since she was a child. The rest of the Lin family also dotes on her, and they never have to worry about life. Needless to say, Xianyuan Qingqing, the third youngest, is half a rich second generation and has her own firm pursuit of ideals. She is the happiest one among the 7 disciples. The fourth child, Sun Xiaokong, was from a more ordinary background, but he was very capable and suffered very few setbacks. Lao Wu is even more happy as a family and sharing a family relationship. Xiao Liugzhi's confusion is quite special, and Su Xian doesn't know what exactly it is thinking in its mind. In contrast, Lin has been without a father or a mother since she was a child, and has been dependent on her grandmother. Later, she was plagued by disease, the entire race suffered a catastrophe, and her grandmother was killed. It can be said that he had a bad life. He could feel that Lin's calm appearance still contained strong emotional fluctuations. Hatred was not so easy to hide, and it was difficult to let go even temporarily. It took some time to guide her. Lin. Su Xian knelt down, tied up Xiao Qi's messy hair, and washed away the dirt on his face. I gave you the introductory chapter of the great astrolabe technique before. How did you learn? This disciple is stupid and has not fully understood, Nicole said in a low voice. Don't be afraid, I will teach you as a teacher. Su Xian thought to himself that Lin's talent was not bad, and her understanding was extremely high. It was very suitable for the great astrolabe technique. It was impossible for her to understand the introductory chapter so hard. It can only be that he was distracted by grandma's affairs. When practicing deduction, the fewer distracting thoughts in your mind, the better. What Lin lacks is not her talent, but her state of mind. All around him, the star map unfolded. Lin learned the art of operating a large astrolabe and unfolded a corner of the star chart with great difficulty. Su Xian waved his hand and threw up a leaf. Several flames lit up ahead. Lin, try to analyze the ending of this leaf. Predicting the fate of a fallen leaf or an ant, or even taking action to change its fate, will have a minimal impact on the entire world, and the cause and effect that needs to be endured can be ignored. There is a saying in deduction. There are countless causal lines between heaven and earth that involve destiny. These causal lines are protected by the original power of the world. If the lives in heaven and earth forcefully change them, they will inevitably pay a price. The more causal threads are torn, the greater the backlash will be endured. Some people's lives even involve the whole world. Under Su Xian's guidance, Lin gradually deepened her understanding of the great astrolabe technique and gradually calmed down. The star map suspended in front of Lin continued to expand. It gradually turned into a complete starfield map. Thousands of stars intertwined. At the same time, a mysterious power surrounded Lin. This power could neither be used to deal with the enemy nor to strengthen herself. The only role is to drive the causal destiny line. In divination, this power is called the power of cause and effect. Teacher, I figured it out. Nicoleline's weak voice sounded. The leaves will be burned when passing through the third flame. Leaves are flying. When it flew over the third flame, it was blown back a little by the breeze, landed on the third flame and was burned to ashes. Success. Nicola was delighted. This time she didn't pray to the elf god, but figured it out on her own. Success achieved by relying on one's own abilities will naturally increase the degree of joy. At the same time, the system prompt sounded in Su Xian's mind. Ding, your disciple Nicola successfully condensed the star field deduction map when she was practicing the great astrolabe technique. Congratulations on triggering the 9,000 times critical hit return. You have obtained the semi-god level forbidden technique Curse of Fate and 3 forbidden straw men. Curse of Fate, demigod level, one of the forbidden spells of cause and effect. It needs to be used with the forbidden straw man. The caster needs to obtain part of the body tissue of the cursed target before performing the spell, including blood, hair, and skin weight. Binding the forbidden straw man to the body tissue of the target to be cursed, and then casting the Curse of Fate, the target can be cursed to death through the air regardless of distance. Forbidden Grass Man, a Grand Master level alchemy item that requires materials such as Haoshi, numerology grass, snow lotus root, etc. to be refined. It is a necessity for casting the Curse of Fate. Tip: the Curse of Fate cannot be resisted by physical defenses and can ignore most mental defenses, but it will be counterattacked by causal protective treasures. Another semi-god level forbidden technique. Su Xian was so happy that he used a curse to kill from afar. The first thing that came to his mind was the group of members of the 10,000 nationalities who issued a supreme death order against him. He wouldn't feel happy if he didn't kill a few congressmen and representatives to add to the fun. Go back and try the effect. Putting away his thoughts, Su Xian looked at Xiao Qi again. After practicing the star domain deduction diagram, this disciple's complexion seemed to have improved a little, and the pressure and encroachment of the diseased prophecy pupil on Xiao Qi was gradually weakening. He probably gets it? Perhaps it was because Xiaoqi always used to do divination randomly, which led to the backlash of the power of cause and effect, and the pupil of prophecy became diseased. And the power of the stars pulled the chaotic causal lines around Xiao Qi back on track. So she was able to recover a little. Lin, that's it? Su Xian stopped Xiao Qi, who was about to do another divination. The progress of deduction is not achieved through repeated deduction exercises, but requires careful observation of everything and nature, and the integration of body and mind into the world, so as to better feel the cause and effect line of the world. The most important thing is to take good care of your body. No matter what profession you are in, you need a strong foundation of realm, even a prophet. Do you understand? Nicolan stood up respectfully. Disciple understands. Su Xian handed her a bottle of marrow cleansing potion. There are too many impurities in your body. Take it and your body will have a more thorough understanding of the nature of heaven and earth. The elves and humans have different bloodlines, and they embark on the road of cultivation at different times. Humans are generally around 10 years old. The elves can practice after the age of 5, and those with good physique can even practice earlier. Moreover, the elves have a longer lifespan, but the elves are too dependent on the nature of heaven and earth, and the bottleneck of breaking through the semi-god realm is also higher. Teacher, what is the marrow cleansing potion? Lin asked curiously. She lived here and didn't know what the marrow cleansing potion was. Don't ask any more questions, open your mouth. Su Xian sighed and fed the marrow cleansing potion directly into Lin's mouth. The latter felt itchy all over and her body was burning. Su Xian condensed a bathtub for her and directly started the artificial sprinkling of spiritual springs to cleanse Nicolan's marrow and bones. At the same time, in the city of 10,000 races, a top-secret scroll was delivered to the hands of the dark elf fortune teller Daisy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 236. Your Majesty, the identity of the mysterious strong man in the Sorrow Cave project has been found out, and the information is in the scroll. Got it, go down. Daisy dismissed her subordinates and activated the scroll. The information recorded in the scroll appeared. Name, Su Xian. Race, human. Age, 26 years old. Gender, male. Recent status, before the age of 25, his strength was only silver level, and he has broken through the realm rapidly in the past year and has reached the Marquisate. Seeing this, Daisy frowned. It only took more than a year to go from silver to Marquisate. It's too outrageous. Such a talent and adventure is even more threatening than the Great Demon King and the Water Moon King. Her murderous intention intensified a little bit, and she continued to read down. Relationship network. Lover, Water Moon King Lin Suiying, suspected of being a couple. Daughter, second disciple Li Xiaoli, the mysterious baby brought back by the Water Moon Marquis from the battlefield between the two worlds 11 years ago. It is speculated that they are not biologically related. The eldest disciple, Zhang Mu, who has half of the demon body, is the champion of the first-year group of this year's Blue Star Higher Education Institutions Exchange Competition. The third disciple, Xianyuan Qingqing, the director of the admissions office of Longdu Academy, the developer of the 8th set of comprehensive basic physical skills of Longguo, and the daughter of Xianyuan Dali, a powerful person in the Marquis realm, also has extraordinary talent in the field of alchemy. The fourth disciple, Sun Xiaokong. After reading Su Xian's network of relationships, Daisy was stunned. Not only is Su Xian amazing, but all of Su Xian's disciples are outstanding. They didn't pay much attention to it before, but they didn't expect such a person to rise quietly on Blue Star. One person is not scary. But a master who can teach countless geniuses is too threatening. Read on. Confirmed abilities, advanced camouflage secrets, advanced space jump secrets, advanced soul attack secrets, advanced resurrection and reincarnation secrets, and the ability to fight against the realm master level king in a short period of time. Undetermined ability, suspected to have the legendary dual domain, suspected to have controlled the source of mysterious matter, the magic sword Apophis. Current threat level, A level. Growth threat level, SSS level. Why is it getting more and more outrageous? Daisy looked at the dense information on the scroll, each one more exaggerated than the other. If this extremely threatening genius is not strangled, when it grows up, I'm afraid the entire Lulin star will be torn off a layer of skin. Su Xian. Daisy silently memorized the name and continued to read. Target location, suspected to be in the battlefield of the two worlds, the specific location is unknown. According to the investigation of the Intelligence Department, the target left Dingai King City a month ago and entered the battlefield of the two worlds, and then lost its trace. Target movement analysis, according to the investigation, the target has no fighting mentality, no specific target, and walks around everywhere, and its movements cannot be analyzed. Can't capture the location. Daisy was furious. Could it be that the other party already knew that the Council of All Races had issued the highest hunting order? It is not impossible. After all, the Council of All Races is not without traitors who are colluding with the human race. Hide. Humph. A hint of coldness flashed in Daisy's eyes. You can hide, but not everyone can. The scepter in her hand lit up. Soon, representatives of the 36 major clans of Lulin Star all rushed over. Everyone, have you all read the information scroll about Su Xian, the target of the highest hunting order? I have read it. This child must not be kept. He is so amazing at such a young age, and he has many mysterious adventures. He must be killed. Many representatives agreed. Daisy said, the problem is that the other party seems to have received the news that we want to kill him, and has hidden his tracks and is hiding somewhere. We don't know where to start. The representative of the succubus smiled and said, Then let's follow the old rules. Start with his close ones and force him out. Humans are the most reluctant to give up their feelings, and this method works every time. The representative of the shadow demon also said, as long as we force him out, we will kill him with thunder. Daisy nodded, then choose one. The representative of the goblin raised his hand. First, exclude the Water Moon King Lin Suying. The Water Moon King seems to be the closest person to Su Xian, but if the demigod does not come out, no one can kill the Water Moon King, and the king-level assassin will be sent there in vain. After all, they are heading to the enemy's base camp, and it is basically difficult to escape if the assassination is successful. We must weigh the pros and cons to see if it is worth it. Then kill Lin Suying's daughter. Since Su Xian has a very close relationship with Lin Suying, he must have a deep relationship with Li Zili, and this is also the easiest target to assassinate. I agree. Assassinating other disciples may not force Su Xian out, and it is more difficult. The representatives reached a consensus again. You have to pick the softest persimmon. In their minds, Li Zili is undoubtedly the easiest one to kill. Daisy finalized, since the target has been selected, this matter will be handed over to the Shadow Demon clan leader. Please arrange it and act as soon as possible. The Shadow Demon clan is best at assassination. They lurk in the dark, and once they take action, they will kill with one strike. And the Shadow Demon clan is also good at escaping, and the probability of leaving after assassination is also higher. The Shadow Demon clan leader smiled and said, just leave this matter to us, and please ask the parliament to distribute the subsidy resources to our clan as soon as possible. In order to assist the parliament in assassinating various targets, our Shadow Demon clan has sacrificed a lot recently. Daisy nodded, don't worry, the parliament will not forget the contributions of you and the Shadow Demon clan. The meeting ended. The Shadow Demon clan leader rushed back to the clan and told the clan members about the target. When they heard that they were going to assassinate the human race, the Shadow Demon clan members were eager to try. This is how their race is born, and they don't value their own lives very much. They like the feeling of lurking in the shadows and assassinating. In their hearts, that is the fate of their destiny. They were born from the shadows, without a father or a mother, and are an extremely special race. The children of the Shadow Demon clan have to undergo various cruel training from the age of 3, and survive the fight with their companions and stand out. Therefore, the Shadow Demon clan is rare in number, but they have a great reputation among the 10,000 clans of the entire Lulin Star. It is precisely because of the strong people that they can become one of the 36 major clans. Shadow Demon, you go. The Shadow Demon clan leader designated a candidate. This is the target's information. It is very easy for you to kill her. After killing her, run away immediately, and there is hope to escape. Thank you, clan leader. The Shadow Demon, known as Shadow Demon, took the information scroll calmly. He looked at the information recorded in the scroll. Li Zili, Starry Realm. The location is Blue Star Dingai King City. Killing a Starry Realm is easy for him who has reached the 9th level of the Marquee Realm. The only problem is whether he can escape from Dingai King City smoothly after killing him. The Shadow Demon Chief warned, remember to be careful, this person may have a protective treasure. This mission is extremely important. Only success is allowed, not failure. Understood. The Shadow Demon made a judgment in his heart, and his body disappeared into the shadows. P.S. Add more to support. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 237. Blue Star, Dingai Royal City. Shuiyu Palace. Summer vacation is about to end. Xylee is having a lot of fun at home. School will start in a few days, and she can go to Dingai Royal City to compete with those older brothers and sisters. Just thinking about it is exciting. Xiaoshu, accompany me to buy some beautiful new clothes. I want to be the most beautiful child in Dingai Academy. Xylee pulled out the world sapling from the courtyard, replaced it with a potted plant, and then held it in his arms. The world sapling looked helpless. It has forgotten how many times it has accompanied the little master to go shopping. No wonder the male humans on Blue Star are afraid of shopping, and it seems to understand why. Xylee walked on the street with a potted plant, attracting countless eyes. Facing the strange eyes, Xylee held his head high, strode with a proud face, and exuded a confident light. The world sapling wanted to cry but had no tears. Even it felt embarrassed, but the little master enjoyed it very much. Xylee always has a beautiful world in mind. Strange and weird gadgets always attract her attention. She can stop for a while when she sees something new. Xiaoshu, let me change a pot for you. Suddenly, Xylee walked to a porcelain market and was immediately attracted by all kinds of exquisite porcelain. That. The boss smiled helplessly, little girl, this is a chamber pot. It's the same. It's fine as long as it looks good. Xiaoshu doesn't care about these. How many blue star coins are there? I'll buy it. Xylee doesn't care at all. They are all pots. As long as they look good and can be used, it's fine. Xiaoshu. Master, please come back soon. Is my dignified world tree going to be planted in a chamber pot? Just as Xylee was about to pay, the sapling suddenly smelled a hint of danger. Under the bright sun, the shadow of the porcelain shop owner was infinitely elongated. Die! A cold shout sounded. The boss had flashed in front of Xylee without knowing when, and his palm turned into a sharp thorn, stabbing Xylee's heart. The defenseless Xylee naturally didn't react. The spike fell on Xylee's heart. Xylee blinked and stared at the boss in a daze. Boss! What are you doing? The boss possessed by the shadow evil was also stunned. What am I doing? At this time, the anxious voice of the world sapling sounded in Xylee's mind, little master, hurry up, he wants to kill you. The shadow demon clan killed people invisibly, and the murderous aura was completely restrained, so that Xylee didn't notice it at all. Bang! After being reminded, Xylee threw down the chamber pot and ran out, shouting, kill people, kill people. The shadow evil gathered his killing intent and chased him again. In an instant, he came behind Xylee, and his hand turned into a spike and stabbed towards Xylee's crown. At the moment when the spike approached Xylee, the power of the entire Dingai King city seemed to gather at this moment. The Shadow Demon clan's unique skills, which have always been a one-hit kill, have lost their effect at this moment. The Shadow Evil was completely stunned. Both attacks seemed to have completely fallen into cotton, and could not hurt Xylee at all. At the same time, he could feel two powerful auras rushing towards this place. He only had one chance to attack again. The two failures made Yingxia extremely humiliated. He was a dignified assassin of the 9th rank, but he could not kill a little kid in the starry realm. Boom! The terrifying aura burst out from Yingxia. He no longer hid, turned into a black light and flashed, and instantly appeared in front of Xylee, and stabbed with all his strength. Plop! Xylee only felt that she was pushed, and fell backwards, sitting on the ground. She looked at the strange species in front of her with a puzzled and slightly aggrieved look. This guy looks completely different from humans, and he has no legs. It seems that he has a shadow of life, weird and a little scary. When Xylee examined Yingxia, a terrifying aura had already arrived in the air, and the powerful pressure directly pressed Yingxia to the ground, unable to move. It was Miao Xian, the king of Zhejiang. Nephew. Seeing Miao Xian, Xylee shouted loudly. Miao Xian's face changed slightly, and another figure fell down. He quickly helped Xiaoli up. Second senior sister, are you okay? I'm fine. Xiaoli stood up, patted the dust on his butt, and pointed at the suppressed Yingxia. This guy suddenly showed up to kill me and scared me. You must punish him severely. Zhejiang King Miao Xian looked heavy. Shadow Demon Clan. Or a 9th grade marquis. Such a strong man quietly sneaked into Dingai King City just to kill a child in the Starry Realm? The most important thing is that Xiaoli was unharmed. What kind of protective treasure is so powerful? It stands to reason that a 9th grade marquis wants to kill a Starry Realm. No matter what level of treasure he wears, he will succeed in assassinating him after several consecutive attacks. His eyes fell on the sapling in Xiaoli's arms. If he guessed correctly, Xiaoli's safety might be related to this tree. As the new governor, Miao Xian controls the city defense formation. He can feel that this small tree seems to affect the energy of the entire Dingai King City, and the energy of the world contained in it is also terrifyingly rich. No wonder the concentration of the energy of the world in the Shuiyu Palace is so high. King Zhejiang understood instantly. King Shuiyu is really amazing, and he has arranged such a strong backup at home. When he thinks of King Shuiyu, he will think of Su Xian. Recently, his mother always nags him, saying that Su Xian is a great person and will definitely stand at the top of the world in the future. Both his mother and father were convinced and asked him to sincerely call Su Xian master when he saw him in the future. Well, King Zhejiang felt conflicted in his heart. He didn't have any hatred towards Su Xian. After all, Su Xian saved his parents. He owed Su Xian a huge debt of gratitude, but he still felt a knot in his heart when he was asked to call him master. Second senior sister, have you done anything strange recently? 11er asked. No. Xiao Li was very innocent. I just wanted to buy some beautiful clothes before going to school, but I didn't expect that this guy suddenly mutated and wanted to kill me. 11er thought thoughtfully. It seems that the assassination itself has nothing to do with the second senior sister. This shadow demon clan wants to lure out the teacher by assassinating the second senior sister. The king of Zhejiang also thought of something. Is it a hunting order for all races? 11er nodded. That's it? I don't know what the teacher did to provoke such an assassination. Just to deal with the second senior sister, a 9th grade feudal prince was dispatched. The king of Zhejiang thought of some recent rumors about the battlefield between the two worlds, and had some speculations in his mind. Could it be that Su Xian has grown to that point in a short period of time? Hoo ho ho. Listening to the two people's analysis, Xiao Li's little face bulged with anger. So these guys want to harm the teacher? Huh, nephew, sister 11er, you must punish this guy severely. We understand 11er warned. Second senior sister, you also need to be careful. It's best not to go out recently. We will deal with this guy. The king of Zhejiang is not too worried. Even the 9th grade feudal lord level shadow demon tribe couldn't cause harm to Xiaoli, and I'm afraid it would be the same for the 9th grade feudal lord level. All I can say is that Shui Yuwang's family of 3 are all perverted. While Xiao Li was being assassinated, Su Xian, who was far away on Lulan Star, also collected some materials. The forbidden straw man is ready. Supreme Fatway? He wanted to see who killed whom. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 238. After helping Xiao Qi complete the marrow cleansing and bone cutting, Su Xian's chaotic body prototype evolved again, and the degree of evolution increased from 30% to 36%. Under his guidance, Nicolan's physical condition gradually improved. Self-confidence is the best medicine for a complete transformation. After getting out of the extremely inferior mentality, Nicolan's talent began to show. During this period, Su Xian was not idle. he visited representatives of several small tribes who advocated war and took some hair. Because there is a prerequisite for the use of the life curse. The body tissue containing the life breath of the cursed object needs to be bound to the taboo straw man. Only in this way can the life curse be activated. As for why not to provoke the 36 major tribes, one is because the strength of the major tribe representatives is at least the king, and the probability of successfully casting the life curse is very low. Secondly, the body tissue of the representatives of the 36 major tribes is not so easy to obtain. If exposed, it is likely to be confessed on the spot in the local base camp. No one knows whether these major tribes have semi-god masters in charge. Everything is ready. Su Xian set up a shielding ban in the room and took out the taboo straw man. Life binding. The spell was cast. The taboo straw man was tied to the hair of the representative of the Poison Claw clan. The breath of life was connected. Su Xian closed his eyes and followed the guidance of the taboo straw man. He could feel that there was a connection point in a distant hill. The taboo straw man gradually changed from the original small scarecrow. After a while, the image of the scarecrow turned into a short, ugly creature with a huge poisonous claw. This is the mimicry of the Poison Claw clan among the 10,000 races of Lowland Star. Kill. The breath of life was completely bound. Su Xian's eyes burst with murderous intent, and powerful mental power surged out. Of course, he was far from being able to curse a marquis-level strongman with mental power, even if a semi-god level strongman came. He just used his own mental power to echo the law of cause and effect between heaven and earth. With the help of the forbidden straw man as a medium, the power of the law of cause and effect was used to curse the representative of the Poison Claw clan. This is exactly the horror of the forbidden technique of cause and effect. It is mysterious and hard to defend against, and it kills the enemy thousands of miles away. However, the disadvantages of this technique are also obvious, that is, the lethality is not enough, it is difficult to cross the level of the enemy, and the frontal resistance is equal to 0, and it can only be used as an assassination method. But it is just right for Su Xian, who is in this situation. It can deter the enemy without exposing the position. The city of 10,000 clans. The dark elf fortune teller Daisy sat opposite the Shadow Demon clan leader. Your Majesty, the plan to assassinate Li Xiaoli failed. The Shadow Demon clan leader had just received the news that the Shadow Demon assassination failed and was caught, and immediately rushed to the city of 10,000 clans to report the information to Daisy. Why did it fail? Do you know the specific reason? Daisy frowned. She couldn't understand why a powerful 9th-rank marquis, who was the best assassin of the Shadow Demon clan, couldn't kill a human cub from the Starry Realm. Even if Li Xiaoli was wearing a king-level protective treasure, he would definitely be killed under continuous assassination. The Shadow Demon clan leader was also puzzled and said, I can't be completely sure of the reason at present, but I can be sure that Li Xiaoli has an extremely special protective treasure, and even the 9th-rank marquis cannot break through it. I don't know whether it is the means left by the Water Moon King Lin Suiying or Su Xian's backup. Daisy sighed, these two people are super geniuses who have risen in recent years. Just one of them is enough to give me a headache, and now the two are together, alas. I must perform another great prophecy in the near future, and the action of the 10,000 races must be accelerated. Let the Blue Star human race rest for so long, it's time for them to feel the fear of being dominated by the 10,000 races again. After the Forgotten River Festival, I will retreat to prophesy. The Shadow Demon clan leader said again, then how to deal with the Supreme Hunting Order against Su Xian? Continue to assassinate Li Xiaoli or deal with his other disciples and force him out? Let me think about it. Daisy was also a little embarrassed. If she continued to assassinate Li Xiaoli, it is very likely that not only would she not be able to force Su Xian out, but the 10,000 Races Council would also suffer more losses. As for assassinating Su Xian's other disciples, it is even less cost-effective. Disciples can be trained again after they die. Su Xian has so many disciples that he may not show up for 1 or 2 disciples. And if the 10,000 clan council sends assassins into the Blue Star base camp to assassinate, there is a high probability that they will lose a high-ranking title of Marquis, or even a title of King, and it may not be successful. Wait a minute. After thinking it over again and again, Daisy said, give up the assassination of Li Xiaoli for the time being and wait for the opportunity. Su Xian will definitely show up again. When he shows up again, it will be his death. In addition, do not relax the surveillance of Shui Yuqing, Lin Suiying and Li Xiaoli. If there is a perfect opportunity, you can still carry out the assassination. Understood. The Shadow Demon clan leader nodded. Just as the two were discussing, the 10,000 clan intelligence department personnel hurriedly arrived outside. Report. Your Majesty Daisy, there is information from the Poison Claw clan that their clan leader suddenly died while practicing in the morning. The cause of death is not known for the time being. The clan leader of the Poison Claw clan died suddenly. Daisy had an ominous premonition in her heart. Although the Poison Claw clan is only a small clan among the myriad clans, and its strongest member is only at the Marquis level, it is not important to the Council of Myriad Clans. But recently, Lowland Star has suffered a series of defeats. First, the whaling operation failed, the combat power of the major legions on the front line was damaged, and now another member of the 10,000 Races Council died suddenly. As the saying goes, misfortunes never come alone. This is not a good sign. I'll go over and take a look. Daisy was worried and rushed over in person. When she arrived, she saw the Poison Claws wailing and the body of the Poison Claws leader was placed on the morning hall. No external injuries, but the soul is completely destroyed. Daisy frowned. She knocked the scepter in her hand, and the dark ripple slowly spread, covering the entire Poison Claws territory. There are no traces of fighting? Could it be a forbidden technique of the causal system? As a fortune teller, Daisy's research on the causal system is also profound. She deduced the cause of death of the Poison Claws leader in just a moment of perception. The causal forbidden technique is very rare, and the conditions for practicing and performing it are also extremely harsh. She couldn't understand who would spend so much effort just to kill a Poison Claws leader. At this moment, another voice sounded in her heart. Your Majesty, I just got the news that the chief of the Swamp Snake tribe also died suddenly. What? Daisy was shocked. The successive deaths of 2 members of the 10,000 races made her realize the seriousness of the matter. She quickly rushed to the territory of the Swamp Snake tribe. The cause of death of the Swamp Snake chief was exactly the same as that of the Venom Claw chief, and it was definitely the same murderer. Is the other party trying to intimidate the 10,000 Races Council? Who is it? In Daisy's cognition, there are only a handful of strong people who master the forbidden art of cause and effect, such as Blue Star and Lauren Star. The strongest among them is the one of the elves, Moira of Destiny. But Moira should not do this. It is not worth it for the other party to use such means to kill 2 small marquises. Could it be? A name emerged in Daisy's mind. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 239. Is it really him? When Daisy thought of that name, she felt that her idea was a bit absurd. Su Xian had already learned a lot of things, how could he master a causal forbidden technique in such a short time? But who else could it be but Su Xian? The Council of 10,000 Races had just carried out an assassination attempt on Li Xiaoli, and 2 representatives of the Council of 10,000 Races died suddenly afterwards. This was undoubtedly a warning from Su Xian to them. It seems that guy has never been to the battlefield between the 2 worlds, and has been lurking in Dingai King City. Daisy gnashed her teeth. Over the years, facing the supreme hunting order of 10,000 races, Su Xian is the first one who can still fight back. The most annoying thing is that they can't find Su Xian's location at all. Looking at the lifeless body of the swamp snake chief, Daisy's eyes flashed with a cruel look. Su Xian, I will definitely catch you, you can't escape. At the same time, in the distant eternal forest. In a room, Su Xian put the two broken taboo straw men in front of him into the space ring, and wiped out all traces of the crime. After casting the death curse twice in a row, his head was a little dazed and groggy. The death of two 10,000 races counselors should be able to deter the 10,000 races council. He breathed a sigh of relief and was about to go out when there was a knock on the door. Cade, the dean wants to see you, hurry over. I'm coming. Su Xian's current identity is the instructor of the Elf Academy, Cade. The original Cade had died in the coronation riot. Cade used to be a capable subordinate of the dean of the Elf Academy. Now that he survived the coronation riot, he is even more respected. Su Xian didn't care too much. The Elf Academy is no longer as good as it used to be. The old dean is only a marquis, and it is impossible to see his disguise. He hurried to the dean's office. Cade, you are here, sit down. The old dean looked at Su Xian. I heard that you recently accepted Nicolin as a disciple. Yes, Dean. Su Xian nodded. Lin is a pitiful little girl, the old dean said. I have personally seen her eyes and asked the pastor to see them. There is basically no possibility of recovery. I don't know why you want to accept her as a disciple, but since you are a teacher, you should be more responsible for your disciples. Su Xian was puzzled. What do you mean? The old dean said, I know a way to nourish Lin's eyes. Although it is unlikely to completely cure them, it can have a certain inhibitory effect and can also allow her to live longer. Otherwise, she will die before she is 10 years old in this state. Do you have a way to nourish Lin's eyes? Su Xian was shocked. If Lin can be completely cured, her amazing understanding and talent will be fully utilized, and she will definitely grow rapidly in divination and deduction. The power of fate and cause and effect condensed by the great astrolabe technique alone can only cure Lin to a limited extent. It is naturally better to have external help. The old dean nodded. In fact, pure water from the Forgotten River can nourish Lin's eyes, but you also know that the Forgotten River is one of the lifebloods of Lulan Star. Pure water from the Forgotten River is extremely precious, and no one is willing to spend so much to treat Lin's eyes. I tell you this because you accepted her as a disciple, and now she is Lin's only relative. As for how to choose, it depends on you. Su Xian suddenly realized. No wonder after he completed the marrow washing and bone cutting for Xiao Qi, the diseased prophetic eye improved a little. At first he thought it was because the marrow washing potion expelled the impurities in Xiao Qi's body. Unexpectedly, it was because the potion was mixed with pure water from the Forgotten River. The old dean said again, if you want to get pure water from the Forgotten River, I may have some opportunities here. As for whether you can grasp it, it depends on you. Please guide the dean. Su Xian knew that he still needed to stay in Lulan Star for a while. Anyway, he didn't mind getting some water from the Forgotten River when he was free. What's more, this thing is very useful. Even if it is not used to heal Lin's eyes, its own value is extremely precious. The old dean sighed. You should know that in 7 days, the Forgotten River Festival will be held on Lulan Star. Now the elves are also among the 10,000 races, and they can also participate in the festival and obtain pure Forgotten River water. Her Majesty the Queen has given the Academy 3 places. If you want to go, I can give you one. In the memory of Dark Elf Murphy before, Su Xian knew about the Forgotten River Festival. The Forgotten River runs through almost the entire Lulan Star. It is also the mother river of Lulan Star, nurturing countless races and lives. The 10,000 Races Council attaches great importance to the Forgotten River. However, there is a natural pollutant in the Forgotten River that cannot be separated. The Forgotten River water collected on weekdays cannot be used at all. Only around October 15th every year. That is, during the Forgotten River Festival, the natural pollutants in the Forgotten River will float up, and members of the 10,000 races can enter the bottom of the river to collect forgotten grass, and purify it to obtain pure Forgotten River water. Of course, when it is not the time for the grand ceremony, the powerful men who have been granted titles of nobility and kings can still force their way into the depths of the riverbed, and there is a small chance to collect the forgotten grass, but the cost is too high, so everyone would rather wait for a relatively safe opportunity. The demigods of Lulanstar once tried to analyze the source of the pollution of the Forgotten River, but they found that the source of the pollution of the Forgotten River is in the center of the earth. If they forcibly interfere, not only will they be strongly resisted by the original will of the world, but the entire Lulanstar will also be in turmoil, so they can only give up. However, this is only a fragment of Murphy's memory. As for the specific inside story, a small dark elf certainly doesn't know the whole picture. Su Xian had a rough judgment in his mind. "Dean, please give me a place. I want to try." "Okay." The old dean handed a token to Su Xian. "Take this to the Legion commander of the Elf Knights, and he will arrange it for you. Cade, remember not to fall behind in your own practice. With your talent, there is a great hope for you to be crowned a marquis. Now that our elves are declining, we need more people to take the initiative to stand up and work hard to carry the banner of the elves." Su Xian responded, "Thank you for the dean's teachings. I will work hard." The old dean nodded with relief. "Go." What he didn't know was that the Cade he was talking about had already died in the riot not long ago and would never come back. Su Xian left. At this time, Nicole Lin had also finished school. With Su Xian's protection, Lin's basic life was guaranteed. She no longer had to do housework or take care of her grandmother, and could devote herself to training. Lin herself worked very hard. Her efforts were no less than those of Zhang Mu, the most introverted disciple. She was always practicing besides studying. "Teacher." Seeing Su Xian, Lin waved happily. During these days of getting along, Su Xian's meticulous care made Lin slowly walk out of the shadows and become much more active. "Practice well, Lin." Su Xian smiled and responded, "Teacher has something else to do, I will come to teach you later." His goal was the Elf Temple. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 240. Elf Temple. Su Xian came here with the old dean's token. As soon as he approached, he felt a familiar breath and a throbbing feeling in his blood. "My blood." Su Xian frowned. When he was in the Red Moon Tavern in Longdu, Atna let him taste the most precious wine of the elves, sacred moonlight. As a return gift, he gave Atna 3 drops of blood. When he came to Lulanstar and saw Atna again, Su Xian could no longer sense the breath of the 3 drops of blood. Why did it appear now? It should have been hidden by Atna's isolation of the breath before, and now it is deliberately released. Could it be? Atna already knows that I am the contact person, and deliberately sends me a signal. The elves have all kinds of strange means. Maybe Moira told Atna about her coming to contact. Su Xian made a judgment in his heart. Maybe there is a chance to test Atna. Although he thought that Atna was unlikely to betray, and Moira had also said that Atna would never betray, there was always a chance of something happening, and for Su Ying, it was better to be careful. Atna and the people of the Elf Knights also noticed Su Xian's arrival. Elf Knights Legion Commander Ivan looked at Su Xian. "Cade, is there anything?" The elves get along relatively harmoniously, and although Ivan is the Legion Commander of the Elf Knights, he is not arrogant. Su Xian handed the old dean's token to Ivan and said bluntly, "Legion Commander, I wonder if you can give me a place to participate in the Forgotten River Festival in 7 days. Ivan nodded, "Yes." Although the Elf Academy has declined, it is still a part of the spiritual and cultural heritage of the elves, and the old dean's face must be given. He handed a token to Suxian. This is the identity card of the sacrificial team. Take it and follow Her Majesty the Queen to the Forgotten River in 7 days. Thank you, Legion Commander. Suxian took the identity token and turned away. Atna looked at the back of Cade leaving, and a trace of fluctuation flashed in her eyes. Ever since Her Majesty Moira told her that Suxian was lurking beside her, she now thinks everyone looks like Suxian in disguise. Your Majesty, what's wrong with you? Seeing that Atna's eyes were following Cade's departure, Legion Commander Ivan couldn't help but wonder, if you think the quota for the sacrificial team is not suitable for Cade, I will take it back later. No need. Atna waved her hand. How about the list of casualties I asked you to collect, and the details of the recent changes in the tribe? Have you investigated them clearly? All have been sorted out. Ivan handed a scroll to Atna and said respectfully, please take a look, Your Majesty. Thank you for your hard work. Atna took the scroll, turned and walked into the elf temple, waving her hand to set up a ban. Ivan bowed his head. It is an honor for me to serve Your Majesty. What a pity. No voice responded to him. Looking at the forbidden elven temple, Ivan's eyes flickered. Her Majesty seemed peaceful to him, but she gave him a cold feeling that kept him at a distance. He thought that accompanying Her Majesty through the riots would always gain some favor. But why did he feel? Her Majesty seemed to be more distant from him. Ivan clenched his fists, and her figure was in his mind. Your Majesty, even if I can only be your knight for the rest of my life, I am willing to give everything for you. On the throne of the temple, Atna opened the information scroll and read it carefully. She collected everything just to find Suxian, hoping to catch some traces of Suxian from the clues. She scanned the names one by one. With her keen sense of smell, Atna's eyes locked on a name. Nicolin. The scroll commented on Nicolin. When she was 1 or 2 years old, she showed a talent and understanding far beyond her peers, and possessed a physique of the prophetic system. Later, she contracted a strange disease, and her physical fitness became worse day by day. According to the diagnosis given by the high priest at that time, Nicolin could not live past the age of 10. Her symptoms could not be cured, and she could only be nourished with the help of the pure water of the Forgotten River. During the coronation ceremony, Nicolin's grandmother died in the riot. The unconscious Nicolin was rescued by the Elf Academy mentor Cade, and later worshipped Cade as her teacher and became his disciple. Accepting a disciple. Atna caught the key details. She paid attention to everything about Suxian, and naturally knew that Suxian had 3 disciples, and Suxian seemed to like teaching disciples very much. She immediately turned out the information of Cade. From the information, it can be seen that Cade had not accepted any disciples before the riot. Although he was Lin's mentor for a period of time, they were not very close. Moreover, Cade was also seriously injured in the riot, but in that situation, he actually went to find Nicolin. In the eyes of outsiders, these little things are not worth mentioning, and no one will pay attention to them. But any details will be infinitely magnified in the eyes of those who are interested. Atna is always paying attention to everything about Suxian, and these clues naturally cannot escape her eyes. She suddenly became excited. Cade may be Suxian. Thinking of this, Atna's heart was pounding. No, I have to calm down, I can't bring danger to Suxian. She took another deep breath and told herself not to mess around. Now she is in this position, countless eyes are watching her, and all her actions will be infinitely magnified. Besides, this was just her wishful thinking. Cade might not be Suxian. Wait a little longer. Athena understood that even if she recognized Suxian now, it would only mess up her state of mind and could not complete the task immediately. The eternal ancient tree had not completely absorbed the life energy in the moon well, and could not evolve to that form. Its trunk could not be taken away, so it could only wait. On the other side, Su Xian, who had obtained a place in the sacrificial team, returned to the college dormitory. Teacher. Seeing Su Xian coming back, Nicolin, who was training, said excitedly, "Teacher, I can finally hit the bullseye, look." She took out an arrow and shot it out. Puff! An arrow hit the bullseye. For a little elf who had difficulty even touching the target before, it is naturally exciting to be able to hit the bullseye now. Very good. Su Xian smiled and praised his disciple without hesitation. Although Lin's major was deduction, she also needed other things to help adjust her mentality. "Lin, I will go out to do something in a few days." Su Xian squatted down and touched Lin's head. "Before that, I have something to tell you." Lin nodded obediently. "Teacher, you say." Su Xian took out a piece of black cloth, and took out some marrow washing medicine to soak it, and put down the divine mind restriction, using it as a blindfold to cover Lin's eyes. "Lin, when the teacher is not here, you must not take it off, and you are not allowed to use the power of the eyes, understand?" "I know, teacher. I will be obedient." Although Lin was puzzled, she believed in the teacher's words. In her heart, she had already regarded the teacher as her only relative.